What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellows podcast. Coming to you here on a Friday. Lucas and Tyler hanging out with you. Tyler, how's it going, man? How's it going?
Man, it's going. And I will say
It's happening.
it's happening.
It's going. Life keeps moving.
Whether you like it or not, everything moves on. No, we got a pretty fun episode.
I'm
we?
looking forward to this episode. Yeah, our goal has been to try and bring you more of a fun episode every single week too, in addition to a division breakdown. Since we don't just cruise through division breakdowns and then sort of mock draft every so often. We're gonna break it up a little bit. We're gonna pace them, break them up a little bit. And today's is fun. We're gonna bring you a little bit of keep, trade, cut for pretty much the entire episode. We'll get into that and we'll wrap out. We have a few mailbag questions at the end. If you want to leave us some mailbag questions, shoot us a DM on any of our socials. FFL is on Twitter, the FFL is on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellows, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. You can leave a comment in any of our videos, and we will hopefully get to it at some point. So we'll close out with some mailbag, but we'll do some keep, trade, cut for this episode. And frankly, to try and keep this short and sweet, let's just dive into keep, trade, cut. Let's not waste the people's time. Less than 2 minutes into the episode, let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
We got a handful of players for keep, trade, cut. All right, we're gonna have 4 different sections of keep, trade, cut. All right. It's going to be a cluster of running backs, or 2 clusters of running backs and 2 clusters of wide receivers that we're going to keep, trade, cut. All right. So I'm going to provide you the 3 players. I'm going to read you their ADPs afterwards. You're going to tell me, who are you keeping? Actually, here's what we'll do. We'll each share who we're keeping. We'll each share who we're trading, and we'll each share who we're cutting. That's how we'll do it. So it's not just like one person at a time. We'll go keep, we'll go trade, we'll cut, we'll move on to the next group. Sound good? We make sense? We're on the same page here? We already were. Who am I kidding? Keep, trade, cut. Keep, trade, cut number 1. Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley. Aaron Jones currently going as the running back 12, Fournette as the running back 13, and hey, Saquon Barkley's right behind him, running back 14. So all 3 of these guys in fantasy drafts are going one right after the other. Tyler, who are you keeping out of this cluster?
Oh man, this is tough. This one is the toughest one out of the rest of them. This one's tough.
I wanted to start with the tough one.
Ooh, man, I think I got to keep Aaron Jones. I because he's a top 10 running back for me this year. I got to keep that.
I 100% agree with you. His receiving work is I'm going to put it so a 2-year-old can understand it. His receiving work going to go boom. It's going to go boom. Boom, boom. It's going to go boom, boom. Okay, it's going to go up, right? I am fully expecting Aaron Jones to see at least 80 targets this year. And frankly, I think I originally had him statted out to see around 90. I had to bring that down a little bit, but that's my optimism for Aaron Jones, okay? Top 12 running back each of the past 3 years has seen 60 plus targets in those seasons. Okay. And now his rushing work has regressed every year. And so has his fantasy rank. I'm just not concerned. Okay. I am not concerned for how much his receiving work is going to go up. You're not drafting Aaron Jones to be a 225, 230 touch running or 230 rushing attempt running back. You're drafting Aaron Jones because you're expecting him to see 75 plus targets this year. That's why you're drafting Aaron Jones. You're not drafting him to be this downhill workhorse running back. In PPR formats, you are drafting him because he will get you massive PPR upside. The other guy on this list, Leonard Fournette, 180 rushing attempts last year. And where did he finish? Oh, top 10. You just don't need that kind of rushing work when you get the receiving work that Aaron Jones is going to get this year. I'm keeping Aaron Jones as well. Tyler, who are you trading out of Leonard Fournette or Saquon Barkley? Who are you trading?
I'm going to answer this kind of in the inverse way. You're not going to be able to trade Saquon for his actual value at the moment.
Are you? Well, his actual value.
Like, because I shouldn't say actual value. Saquon has, one, the name value, but two, he also has a ceiling.
He does.
And no one's going to buy into that argument because they've seen him the past 2 years. So I have to trade Lenny because there's no way I would be able to trade Saquon to someone and get fair return for Saquon.
Here's where I push back, because I think Saquon Barkley's trade value between his name and what people know they're getting. Obviously, nobody is going to pay full value for Saquon Barkley, but they know what they want from Saquon Barkley, right? Like, they know they're trading for a guy who can be a top 5 running back. They are fully aware of that. When you're trading for Lenny, do you know you're trading for a top 5 running back potentially? Here, maybe I should say this. How much more confident are you that Saquon Barkley will be a top 5 running back than Leonard Fournette will be a top 5 running back, or vice versa? How much more confident are you in one than the other?
I would lean Lenny more than Saquon just because of the situation.
See, I would lean Saquon before I would lean Lenny, and part of it is they drafted Rachaad White. Like, I don't think they draft Rachaad White for nothing. And Lenny's getting up there in age too. And I understand in redraft that's not everything, but I think I would trade Saquon because I know I could get more for Saquon. I don't think I could get as much for Lenny. I just don't. I think Saquon, that's why this is so tough, because I do think Lenny and Saquon are surprisingly valued very equally. I just think Saquon's name and what you've seen him do, the running back 1 overall, I think I could get more for Saquon. So I'm going to trade Saquon, which means I would cut Leonard Fournette.
Which I think part of the reason why I was saying that this is the hardest one is because I couldn't put cut and Saquon Barkley in the same sentence.
Right. That's real. That's so real.
And
that's a tough one.
The only way I can make it make sense was the way that I explained it, where like I don't think I could get the value that I would want for Saquon back.
That's fair. And I would demand it. That's the difference between you and me. I would just demand it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're going to give it to me because I know what you're hoping for, because it's exactly what I'm hoping for. And that's why I wouldn't trade him. But if I were to trade him, I know what I would want for him, which I would be more than Leonard Fournette. So, I mean, look, they're both going to be machines this year. I have Saquon Barkley statted out in a full 17-game season to be a top 10 running back. Now, I'm not drafting him there because you do recognize there's injury concerns. But, I mean, the difference between him and Fournette in my rankings is going to be – they're going to be back-to-back in my rankings, because I'm going to drop Kamara from 11 down to however far in my rankings because of the looming suspension. So Lenny and Saquon are going to be back-to-back for me at 10 and 11. So I agree. That is definitely the toughest one. I don't disagree with your take either. I know I pushed back pretty hard, but that is for the sake of the pod. It's for the sake of the pod. It was not because I really actually disagreed all that much. But
we love a good little devil's advocate argument.
A little devil's advocate argument. I agree. Let's move on to the next cluster here. We have a cluster of wide receivers. Keep, trade, or cut Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman Jr., and DJ Moore. Deontay is currently going as the wide receiver 14. Michael Pittman's going as the wide receiver 16. DJ Moore is the wide receiver 18. So you have some pieces in between there. For reference, those pieces are DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin, in case you care. But I think we have mixed feelings about those guys, and I felt this would lead to better conversation, better podcast piece than those other ones would. So Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore. Tyler, who are you keeping?
I swear you looked at my draft guide because I literally have these guys back to back to back.
I might have.
Oh man. Oh no. Okay. Who am I keeping?
Oh, come on. Don't make this hard on yourself. I know who you're keeping.
I'm keeping Pittman.
Yep. Why are you keeping Pittman? I know it's painful because you like all those guys, but
Oh,
I need you to keep pushing this pro Pittman agenda because I'm not brave enough to do it.
look, Pittman's getting an upgrade at quarterback in an offense that needs him as a possession wide receiver, which screams volume play. Maybe the touchdowns aren't going to be there, but the volume's going to be there every single week because he's really the only guy. There's no one there to threaten him. Alec Pierce, maybe later. Paris Campbell, whatever the hype is on Paris Campbell so far this year from
Shut it down.
minicamp is
Shut it
just it's nothing until August. So who else does Matt Ryan have to throw the ball to? I fully admit that the red zone targets and touchdowns may not be there for Pittman because there are guys like Mo Ali Cox who Matt Ryan might target in the red zone a little more often because that's what he's done in the past. There's Jonathan Taylor. I get
Mo
all
Alley
that.
Cox. Sorry, I was late. I was looking up something on my phone. I love Mo Alley Cox. I just have to insert my love for him here. You brought his name up, and I couldn't go without acknowledging it. Continue.
I just like Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan makes Michael Pittman a wide receiver 1 this year.
I thought I was going to keep Michael Pittman. I think I'm going to keep DJ Moore.
Interesting.
First 4 weeks of the season last year, 15.4 fantasy points, 21.9 fantasy points, 20.5 fantasy points, 31.9 fantasy points. We're talking about a dude who was a top 5 wide receiver to start the season last year. Not to mention, that's when Christian McCaffrey was on the field. Christian McCaffrey being injured actually hurt DJ Moore last year. So if you're telling me, which I'm projecting a full and healthy season for Christian McCaffrey, you're telling me that I could get potentially that level of DJ Moore? Now, I mean, don't hear what I'm not saying. Like, I'm not. DJ Moore still only had 4 touchdowns last year. Like, there is that massive downside to him. But like, I'm scared Indy is just going to continue to be extremely run heavy and that I'm not going to be able to rely on Michael Pittman every single week. I think like Michael Pittman he's a top, I believe he's 16, wide receiver 16 in my rankings. So I like Michael Pittman this year. Don't get me wrong, but it's just one of those where like, I still think that team runs through Jonathan Taylor. And just because Matthew Ryan is the quarterback, I've never used Matthew Ryan. I've never used his full name before. That felt so weird. Oh man. I kind of want to barf. I felt gross.
That was so natural too. Like there was zero hesitancy. And you just went straight into Matthew Ryan and
I hate that. Matt Ryan. Now that Matt Ryan's a quarterback, even though he hucks the ball around a little bit more, like I still think that teams run first. I'm just gonna pick it up and keep going. I can't sit in that much longer, otherwise I might actually puke. I'm keeping DJ Moore. Final answer. Lock it in. Who are you trading?
I'm trading Deontay.
Interesting.
I think a lot of people are looking at Deontay as a step back candidate just because of the quarterback.
That's me. That's
that's you. Is that you?
That's me. That's me.
I really don't think Deontay is going to be super affected by that because he's clear and by far the lead target getter in this offense. He is. I don't know what his ADOT is, but Deontay's always going to be there. He's open all the time. He has solved the drop issues from the 2 years ago now. The thing that hurts him is red zone. That's the thing that's going to hurt him.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I and I know a lot of people have talked about the like, oh, remember Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson connection? Let's not go down that route.
They're not the same wide receiver.
This is two very different Mitch Trubiskys.
Yes.
Two very different wide receivers. I'm going to try and sell high on Deontay because I also think you know what you're getting with Deontay because he's a volume guy.
Yeah, he's a volume guy. I would agree. I don't know if he's going to see that 160 targets again, though, this year, which is what I'm more concerned about. So I am going to trade Michael Pittman because I know there's people like you out there who love him.
I will buy low on him from you.
I'll just turn it right back on you, sir. No, I would sell Michael Pittman here, mostly because I think there are a ton of people who believe in him this year. And frankly, I think there's more people who are in on Pittman than there are on Deontay. And I know I'll be able to get more value back for Pittman than I would Deontay. And frankly, like if we're doing like a who do you prefer, like 1, 2, 3, if this is really what that is, I prefer Pittman second, but I also think I could just get more out of Pittman than I could out of Deontay to somebody who, would be more in on Pittman. That's because I think a lot of people share that same opinion as you of Michael Pittman's going to be, wide receiver 1 this year, or borderline wide receiver 1. I think a lot of people share that opinion. It's not an unpopular one, but I'm like much more conservative of like, closer to 15 than 10. So yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, I like Pittman. I like him enough to trade him. That's what I'll leave it with. I like him enough to trade him. So I'm cutting Deontay Johnson and you're cutting DJ Moore, which shocks me. How does that feel? Process your emotions with me right now. I'm just kidding.
There is a lot that needs to be discovered, that needs to be looked into. No, cutting DJ Moore doesn't feel right, but he's such a wild card to me. And I think he's the riskiest out of the 3 because of his quarterback.
That's fair. That is fair.
I know that the man had career year for targets. The receptions weren't there. And to me,
that's also true.
To me, I mean, as a DJ Moore owner in Dynasty, I took a risk going with DJ Moore.
That's true.
So again, I think DJ Moore is the riskiest out of the 3. That's why I got to cut him because I know you can get with Deontay and I know the situation's there, but you can look at the past and be like, it's not him. It's not a Deontay Johnson issue, right? Michael Pittman, you could look at and say he's the lone guy in that offense besides Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
So I kind of default to DJ Moore being cut because that's just how it played out. I wouldn't like it, but that's just how it is.
I didn't think I would be keeping DJ Moore, but the more I sat and I thought about these other 2 and how I thought about them, I'm like, there's also something to be said about the safety net of DJ Moore too, of just like 12 points. Great. I feel like there's less volatility. Deontay, there's that safety net too, I think, but I can't buy in on Deontay this year. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I may get there by August. I'm not there near as we're July 1st here as this podcast is coming out. I'm just not there yet. So keep trade cut number 3. This is going to be a fun one. Keep trade cut number 3. Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs. Cam Akers currently going as the running back 17. Josh Jacobs as the running back 20. J.K. Dobbins as the running back 21. These three names are commonly grouped together from what I've seen, and a lot of different takes on what their value will be this year. Tyler, who are you keeping out of those three?
I'm keeping my boy Cam Akers.
Really?
Indeed, I am. There is some risk with Akers this year.
Yeah, a lot.
In my opinion. My question then is, and I think my answer is going to kind of expose your answer a little bit, because I want to say your keep is going to be J.K. Dobbins, isn't it?
It might be. You're on YouTube. I just got a big old smile on my face.
What's the difference? So how do I phrase this right? How does Akers have more risk than J.K. Dobbins?
Less efficiency. Coming off of an injury that historically has not been as, I mean, let's be real. Coming off of an ACL versus an Achilles, I mean, you don't want to come off of either of those. But the history behind Achilles in the NFL has not been good. And I am terrified that Cam Akers is still going to be an inefficient running back. And at what point does Sean McVay say, Daryl, go take a few more snaps, when J.K. Dobbins already has that built into his value?
Sure.
That's how I see it to be more risky. I feel like with J.K. Dobbins, you know the situation he's walking into. You know exactly how the season is going to go. He's going to come back. He's going to average right around 4.5, 5 yards a carry. He's going to get 200 and something touches this year. He'll probably score 9 times, and he'll sit right around running back 20. Cam Akers, he could be the guy. He could get his efficiency back. He could get all the receiving work. He could fit it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think Cam Akers can be top 15 this year. I think he totally could. I'm not buying it, though. I'm not buying it.
Does that change at all if J.K. Dobbins starts out on the PUP list?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. If Dobbins does start out on the PUP list, that obviously changes. I still don't know if Cam Akers would be my keep, though.
That's why I'll spoil it. Dobbins is my cut.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I don't disagree with that at all.
Because if it wasn't Dobbins I'd be cutting, it'd be Akers. Those two would switch.
Yeah.
It's the PUP list. It's the PUP list that scares me.
That's fair. And maybe maybe we should have done some different names, because there is a lot of uncertainty with Dobbins, and if he starts on the PUP list, I'm going to assume he doesn't, and I am keeping J.K. Dobbins. He's my running back 18, so running back 18 across the board. You know what you're getting, right? Like, I understand he's coming off of an ACL tear. I'm not expecting him to average 6 yards a carry like he did his rookie season, okay? What I am expecting is lots of goal line work. I'm expecting him to still be efficient with his touches. 5 yards a carry is still nothing to disrespect. Yeah, that's nothing to shrug at. And I'm expecting him to probably get somewhere between 220 and 230 carries this year. I'm not expecting a monster workload, but I am expecting him to get quite a bit of rushing work. So I feel like I know what I'm getting with Dobbins. I feel like I know with his touchdown upside too, like they're going to use him around the goal line. I feel like I know what I'm getting with Dobbins more than I know what I'm getting with Cam Akers and Josh Jacobs this year. Now, again, if Dobbins ends up on the PUP list, obviously he can get cut, which then I think I would make – that'd be so tough, because I really don't want to keep either Jacobs, or I think I would lean towards keeping Jacobs, though, and trading Cam Akers. But hear me out. Cam Akers, because I know there are people who are holding on to that promise. I'm not holding on to that promise. He's more expendable than Josh Jacobs to me in that case.
Right.
That's all. That's the only reason. I don't want to keep either of them. That's why I'm keeping J.K. Dobbins. I guess maybe I spoiled my trade by saying that. But who are you trading? You say you're cutting Dobbins already. You already spoiled your cut, so you're trading Josh Jacobs.
because for whatever reason, people are all of a sudden. I was in on Josh Jacobs, and then guess what? I came back to reality. Okay, trade this man while his value is high. Enough said.
Here's the thing that baffles me about the fantasy football community sometimes. We love to acknowledge upside. We love to acknowledge upside. However, we don't love to acknowledge downside, okay? It's the case with Miles Sanders every single season. Oh, he is so efficient. He is so athletic. He's in a run-heavy offense. Yes, that is all true. That is 100% true. I agree. But you want to talk about the fact that he's in a running back committee? And people will say, oh, well, look at the touches. It doesn't work that way. It 100% works that way. If Aaron Jones is in a running back committee, Miles Sanders is in a running back committee, okay? You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too here, all right? You have to acknowledge the downside of these players. Josh Jacobs is also one of those players. That offense is so good. They could be in scoring position more often. Yes, they absolutely could. They absolutely could. You want to know his downside, though? He's not going to get receiving work. He is not going to have 68 targets again this season. His receptions per season are not, or targets per season are not going to go up by 18 and a half. When will we realize, like, we have to acknowledge downside at some point too. We can't keep saying, look at this upside and not acknowledge the downside, because now I'm going to go back to Aaron Jones. This is a perfect example. I'm going off on a totally different rant outside of Josh Jacobs. I'm sorry. I'm kind of really derailing us, but this is something I've recently discovered in the fantasy football community, and it drives me up a wall. People will say this for Aaron Jones. I acknowledge the upside of Aaron Jones, right? And then people will try and create a downside and say, well, won't they stack the box because Aaron Rodgers won't have anybody to throw to? And my answer is yes, they probably will, but you're not drafting Aaron Jones for that. Like, I am not concerned about that with Aaron Jones because I'm not drafting him to be a running back that gets 240 touches and average at least 4.5 yards per carry. I'm drafting him because he's getting 80 plus receptions or 80 plus targets this year probably. Why are you drafting Miles Sanders on the hope of he's not in a committee and that his 190 touches, he scores 6 touchdowns this year, which he hasn't done more than once in his career? We have to acknowledge both, and that is the case with Josh Jacobs. You have to acknowledge his floor could be Damian Harris. His floor, his ceiling is probably closer to Damian Harris, and his floor is probably 12 and a half rushing attempts per game with 7 touchdowns on the season. That's not a guy I really want on my team who's then going to see 34, 5 targets, 2 targets a game. That's not a guy who is running back twice. So we have to acknowledge both. As a fantasy football community, we have to quit banking on upside. We have to acknowledge downside. Rant over. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm trading Josh Jacobs.
Enough said.
You're cutting Dobbins. I'm cutting Akers. That really got derailed. I'm so sorry. But you as a listener needed to hear that. I am so willing to acknowledge all the upside on players, but if we drafted every single fantasy player for their upside,
we'd lose.
You would lose all the time.
Time.
You have to do a cost-benefit analysis of players' upside and their downside. That is the reality. You cannot just go in blindly and say, but there's so much upside. Yeah, there's so much downside too, and you have to start acknowledging that.
Dare I make the argument that downside is more likely than upside?
That's what we don't talk about. That's what we don't talk about.
Everyone wants to say it's a 50-50 shot. But let's be honest. It's like baseball. You get hits
Yeah.
3 out of 10 times, but you get out 7 out of 10 times. That's fantasy football.
It feels a lot like fantasy football. I 100% agree. 100% agree with that. Let's move on to our last keep trade cut. Wow, we spent a lot of time on that, but I don't regret it one bit.
Not one bit.
Not one bit. Last keep trade cut. We're going to look at rookie wide receivers here. This is going to be fun. Drake London, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. Drake London currently going as the wide receiver 40. Treylon Burks as the wide receiver 42. Chris Olave, the wide receiver 46. And Olave honestly makes this really interesting because I don't know which way I'm going to lean here. And this is for redraft, not just Dynasty. We're focusing mostly on redraft right now. Maybe with a little twist of Dynasty, but I think it kind of depends on the players. But Tyler, who are you keeping? Drake London, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave.
I'm gonna go bold. I'm keeping Chris Olave.
Yes. I was hoping one of us would, and I wasn't sure if I would have the balls to do it.
I'm keeping Chris Olave because the MT factor.
Yes.
This will backfire if MT is perfectly okay for training camp and week 1 and stuff. This will backfire.
Yep.
But how many weeks ago was it that I sent him a little video in our group chat?
It's scary.
Of Michael Thomas. Guard dog. Hello.
Mo dog.
Sorry.
I couldn't even hear him.
He pawed at the door.
Oh, I see.
So it's open just enough that like he can like look around and you see his snout, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yep. You still
anyway.
down here, bro?
Yeah. You still there? Yeah. Anyway, that video of Michael Thomas doing box jumps 2 years post surgery,
not great.
Not good.
Not great for the confidence.
If that is any indication of what to expect from Michael Thomas this year, you best believe I'll be keeping Chris Olave because he's then the wide receiver 2 in an offense that will find a way to utilize him.
Yeah. They will make sure he gets used in that offense. They did not trade all that draft capital to not utilize him, to draft him at 11 and be like, you know what? What if we just made you the wide receiver 3 behind Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry? What if we did that? I kind of like that. I like you. Like I like that you kept. I like you, Tyler. You know what, man? I really like you.
Well, thank you. I hope that you do.
I like the fact that you kept Chris Olave there. I'm going to keep Treylon Burks. No, don't give me that. Don't give me that. Why are you upset? Why are you so upset? Why are you so upset?
No, you give your argument, and I just give your argument. It's okay.
When you draft a guy to come in and replace a guy you just traded away, the caliber of AJ Brown, there are expectations, and those expectations need to be met in some capacity. Robert Woods is going to miss, fair to say, 4 games to start the year. 2 to 4, somewhere in that range.
Probably.
I think that's perfect opportunity for Treylon Burks to get his feet underneath him, right? I know this offense is still going to run through Derrick Henry, but I'm sorry, Ryan Tannehill can't hand the ball off 40 times a game to a running back who's nearing the age of 30 and has hit the tipping point for when running backs typically start to decline. And a running back who came off of foot surgery last year. Okay, like, let's not pretend Derrick Henry is invincible. We saw he wasn't last season. Ryan Tannehill, has to throw the ball to somebody. Could be Westbrook-Akine. But when you draft a nice, shiny new toy, Treylon Burks, after you traded A.J. Brown, you should probably make sure that you feed Treylon Burks. Just thinking you should. And I think that offense is better than Atlanta's. That's the other piece I'll give. That's why I was between Olave and Treylon Burks. But because you said Olave, I'm going to go Treylon Burks.
I'm going to change my answer.
You're going to say Drake London, aren't you? Chicken.
No, just kidding. Never mind. I'm sticking with my answer. I'm doubling down.
Okay. You're going to cut Treylon Burks, aren't you? Coward.
We're not talking about players we're cutting just we're talking about players that we're trading. We're going out of order, Lucas. We need to talk about who we're trading first.
Who are you trading?
I'm trading Drake London.
No!
Because there's some fool who will believe, oh, he's the wide receiver one of the Atlanta Falcons offense. And I'll go, have fun with the worst offense in the NFL. Here you go, pal. It's an easy sell.
I'm debating. But that's my now this is my debate. Because I think you could pitch the same argument for Drake London or Chris Olave. I think you could pitch either. I think you could tell somebody, look, Chris Olave is going to fill a huge role in the Saints offense this year, especially playing alongside Michael Thomas. Jameis likes to throw the deep ball. But I think I agree with you. I think I'm going to trade Drake London on the whim that someone is going to say, well, yeah, he's the wide receiver one. He is. He's playing with Marcus Mariota. Kyle Pitts is on the other side of the ball. Like I don't have high hopes for Drake London this year. I have high hopes for him, the talent in future years, but in 2022, I'm not a huge fan of Drake London in fantasy drafts. So yeah, I agree. I would trade Drake London. And by process of elimination, you're cutting Treylon Burks. I know I gave you heat for it. I don't disagree with it, though. I don't disagree with it because I can acknowledge the downside of Treylon Burks, too, because when Robert Woods comes back, he's probably the wide receiver one, and Treylon Burks is going to be overshadowed. It's as simple as that. You don't get that as much with Chris Olave. You have that built in.
Yep.
I think I'm cutting Chris Olave for that reason. I think there would be. I think we'll see Michael Thomas this season. I still think that'll be the number one option. And you bring in Jarvis Landry too. There's just a ton of competition there. So I'm cutting Chris Olave just because there will be the most competition there versus Treylon Burks and Drake London. There's only one guy ahead of them, if one, in Treylon Burks' case, to start the year. You have something you want to get off your chest. I see that little grin on your face.
Okay, I have two things to say.
Do it. Then we got to get to mailbag.
One, if I'm not on next week's episodes, please ask Lucas where I am. Because I may not be here.
I will find you.
And I will kill you. Secondly, I was very, very sick. And I'm still very, very sick of people saying that Treylon Burks is a carbon copy of A.J. Brown.
Oh, he's not. He's not.
That's what people are arguing for Treylon Burks in fantasy.
No, you can't argue that he's a carbon copy of A.J. Brown. You have to argue he's replacing A.J. Brown.
Bingo.
There's a difference. There's a difference.
That's why I can respect your take on it, because that is your take.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people that are saying, no, Treylon Burks is exactly like A.J. Brown and he's going to fill the role perfectly.
No.
That ain't it, Chief. That ain't it.
Yep.
That's why I'm cutting Treylon Burks, because I'm also relatively out on the hype on his skill. Maybe
that's
the best way to put it.
That's fair.
Because I saw a whole lot of people during the draft and build up to the draft say Treylon Burks is wide receiver one in the draft. And those people are fools. Absolute fools.
Jahan Dotson went ahead of him.
Yes, Jahan Dotson. Okay. All this to say, Treylon Burks will be a fine NFL player. But for the expectation of him filling an A.J. Brown role and handling a A.J. Brown workload is not going to happen.
No, the argument does have to be he's replacing A.J. Brown, and they traded him away to then draft Treylon Burks with literally the pick they received to draft Treylon Burks. Okay, they used the pick they got to draft their replacement. Not a carbon copy, a replacement. Okay, difference. That's what you have to argue if you are arguing for Treylon Burks. That was fun. We made an episode out of that. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Let's close out with some mailbag. This will be fun. We got 3 questions here in front of us today. If you want your questions answered in our mailbag segment, FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Send us a message. Leave a comment. We'll be posting on our stories or posting on the platforms themselves questions that we will answer on our podcast here. So go drop your questions over there. We will answer them for you in our mailbag segments. All come from Instagram today. Caleb_B_3 ask, who is the better pick at 107? Najee Harris or Joe Mixon? This one's pretty easy for me.
This is Najee Harris for me.
It's Najee Harris for me. I agree.
So here's the thing. There was a report that came out that, Najee's not going to be on the field nearly as often as he was last year, which is hilarious because then Mike Tomlin comes out in a press conference and says, we need him to be a bell cow for us this year. And guess what? Both of those statements can be true.
Yes, they can.
And we've talked about this in the past. The number one thing that's probably going to go is the receiving numbers. The man finished with 74 catches on 94 targets. That is not going to happen again this year. And if it is, that's then the greatest trickery by any NFL team when it comes to talking about a player's role, because that just no one's expecting it.
Yeah.
But he will still get a whole bunch of carries. He will be efficient with those carries because he is one of the best running backs in the NFL. Can we just say that? He just will.
Yes. Yep.
Mixon, on the other hand, ceiling's a little bit capped just because of the offense that he's in.
Yep.
Najee at the 107.
Yeah, Najee at the 107. I think Mixon won't get the receiving work that we desire for him to. That's kind of the big thing there. And again, we agree Najee's receiving work will come down, but what did you see? 90 targets last year? Something absurd like that. He's not going to see that many this year, but I'd be willing to bet he sees more than Mixon. He sees more than Mixon this year. And I think that's the great equalizer for me the separation between the two is Najee will see more receiving work. Oh, your jaw just dropped. What happened?
Rob Refsnyder hit a 2-run homer tonight.
Oh!
Way to go, Rob.
For those of you who don't know, we love Rob Refsnyder. Used to be a member of the Minnesota Twins. All 3 of us fellows were at a game last year, actually, and Rob Refsnyder was filling in for an injured Byron Buxton. And Rob was
he
fantastic.
Stole our hearts.
He stole our hearts. Stole our hearts. So we are Tyler's team name in our Dynasty League is the Rob Refsnyder fan club. So we love Rob Refsnyder. We're dipping outside of football here, but way to go, Rob.
Way to go, Rob.
Way to go. Rob Refsnyder's my hero, man. I love Rob. So I agree. Najee Harris at the 107. Next question. Oh, goodness. I don't want to butcher your name. Eshanara10 from Instagram as well. I apologize if I messed that up.
It's who?
Should I keep?
I'm trying to say it myself too. I'm sorry. I'm butchering it too, probably.
You're good. We apologize. Thanks for sending in your question, though, man. We appreciate it. Should I keep Alvin Kamara, or should I deal him? Playing in a league that knows the true value. So I'm gonna guess. I don't know if this is redraft or dynasty. If you did a redraft league already, I'm sorry, that's a tough spot to be in. I'm gonna assume this is keeper or dynasty. In that case, I would say keep Kamara. He's going to be a top 5 running back when he returns. I think you can make do with Kamara in the meantime with other pieces and that you'll be drafting most likely. Or if you're in dynasty, obviously you don't want to move off Kamara at this point. This would not be the point to move off Kamara. So I would hold on to Kamara. Even if I did redraft at this point, I just know the player I'd be getting back for Kamara at this point wouldn't be worth it. So yeah, and especially if your league mates know like what Alvin Kamara can actually be and are willing to sit on him and not pay full price for him, I would hold on to Kamara. I think you're kind of pinned into it, but regardless, keeper or dynasty, I would still hold on to Kamara.
Dynasty for sure keeping.
Yes.
Because the beauty in dynasty is that it does kind of lessen the blow a bit on suspensions and stuff.
Yep.
Redraft, though, it gets kind of tricky. If you can sell him for a full 17 game like Alvin Kamara, I'd absolutely do it. But if the rest of your league is noticing all the headlines that he is he's prepping for a 6-game suspension and whatnot, I would probably hold on to him because you're not going to get the right value that Alvin Kamara should get in a fantasy football trade.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Well said. Let's wrap up. One last question here from Martin_Ethan11.
Yo, Ethan.
What's going on? Players to buy high, buy low on for trades. We're going to take this from a dynasty perspective because in redraft, it's too early to be doing that. So, and frankly, if you're drafting for your redraft already, you should just be doing mock drafts for those. Don't do an actual redraft draft right now. So for dynasty, one buy high, one buy low for each of us. And we can give short analysis because we'll be talking about probably a lot of these players in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Buy high, sell low.
Buy high, buy low. So who do you want to go out and get for dynasty right now? And who's a guy that like may not be the most exciting player to trade for, but you still want on your team?
I think a buy low, Michael Gallup.
Love that. Love that.
A buy high that I'm selling the farm for.
But like someone not super obvious. Yeah, right. But someone not obvious, right? Like after his contract now, like if I'm in a league with people who are buying Terry McLaurin is like, oh, his dynasty value just takes a hit now. Like I understand the argument behind that, but if you have people who believe that in your league, I'm going out and getting Terry McLaurin right now for what I can. 27 years old. Not a great dynasty asset to be holding on. I mean, he's a nice player. Don't get me wrong, but like he's no Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase, right? Like I would go out and I'll go out and get him. I would even, you know what? I take that back. I would go out and get DK Metcalf.
Oh,
that's my buy low. I'll go out and get DK Metcalf. He's young. He's still going to cost you a bit, but I would go out and buy low on him because he is a buy low candidate right now. You can't sell him for Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf. You can't buy him for more than Drew Lock, DK Metcalf. Even if Baker Mayfield goes to Seattle, how did Odell do with Baker? Like, it doesn't give me any more confidence. So
too hot.
Yeah, doesn't give me any more confidence. So you have managers who have DK. If you can get 90 cents on the dollar, I don't think I would go lower than 75. I wouldn't go lower than 75. But if you can get 90 cents on the dollar for DK, that'd be pretty dang good. Frankly, I'd be willing to pay that for DK in Dynasty.
Buy high, Aaron Jones.
Yes, great one. That's a great one. I agree.
We've done our explanation already in this episode and the last episode too.
Yeah. Do you have a buy low at all?
Buy low, Michael Gallup.
Yes, you said that. Sorry. I totally skipped over that. If I'm buying high, here's a guy. T. Higgins. I'm going out and get T. Higgins if I can. If I can go out and get T. Higgins, I'm going to go out and do that.
You've got some content creators that are not so happy with this take, Lucas. Defend it.
I don't get what's not to like about T. Higgins, especially in Dynasty. 23 years old. Okay, he's still young. Yes, he's the wide receiver 2 on that team. I explained this. Was this last week? Yeah, when we did the AFC North, and I said that T. Higgins was my wide receiver 11. I don't like. What is there not to like about T. Higgins? Is it the fact that like he doesn't get super high volume and super high receptions? Like that's not who T. Higgins is. He's not a high efficiency or a high volume guy. He's a high efficiency guy. He's going to do a lot with his touches when you give it to him. And the Bengals offense is going to take a step forward. They are a pass heavy offense. I shouldn't say pass heavy. They favor the pass more in the offense. That's the proper phrase. I don't know what's not to like about T. Higgins. You might have to pay a pretty penny for T. Higgins, but I don't know. Like if you could here, how about this? I'm going to use the guy I just talked about. I would go give up DK Metcalf to go get T. Higgins. I would go give up DK Metcalf for T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin. If you have Terry McLaurin on your team, go out and get T. Higgins. Throw in some other pieces, get T. Higgins. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. So I don't know. I love T. Higgins this year. I'll go out and pay full price for him right now. Yeah. Anything you want to add to wrap out the episode here? We're coming up on 50 minutes. I didn't think this was going to be a 50-minute episode, but here we are.
Here we are. Again, if I'm not here next week, it's because Lucas came over to my house and voiced his disagreement and his displeasure for my Treylon Burks take. So
I'm really not that upset with it at all. I find a lot of merit in it. So
here comes a week of no sleep.
Better sleep with one eye open. No, I will
officially
not
hit our point.
We've hit our point. We need to wrap out the episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. Go buy our draft guide, $5. $5 plus your email on Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Projections on over 200 players this year. That is over 600 projections because you are getting projections from myself. You're getting projections from Tyler. You're getting projections from Cameron for $5. That is $1.33 per person's projections.
And then within each of our own projections, there's over 200 players. So you take $1.33 divided by 200, and it is 0.00000.
It should be 1.67 per. I did my math wrong. That would only lead us to $4, and we're charging $5. It's late at night, man. I can't do this anymore.
My brain hurts.
1.67 per. Either way, you then divide 1.67 by 200, and that's how much you're getting per project. Point being, it is a steal. Okay, $5. That's all it is. $5. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Fantasy Football Fellas on Venmo. FF Fellas on both Cash App and PayPal. Give us a follow on the socials as well. I want to make sure there wasn't anything else I want to throw in there at the end. Follow us on the socials. FF Fellas on Twitter. The FF Fellas on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas. Facebook. Posting more content on YouTube. Come catch us over there. We're posting our video recording podcast over there as well, which if you heard all of our laughter tonight and a couple references, like, don't make that face at me, right? You get all that on YouTube. That makes it so much better. You get all that on YouTube. So go check us out over there. And then Fantasy Football Fellas on TikTok as well. We are still cruising up over there. We're releasing all sorts of great videos every single day. Once we hit 75K, we're gonna have some fun celebrating. Let's push that follower count up there. So if you don't follow us over there, if you are coming from TikTok, maybe you're coming from TikTok. Thanks for tuning in. This was a fun little venture we decided to hop on just over a year ago now, and we didn't think we'd be at this point today, honestly. Well, maybe Cameron did. I wasn't sure what to make. I thought this was just going to be a fun hobby, and now all of a sudden, a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of energy into this because we care about it a lot. So thanks for making that happen for us. Two Stooges being dudes. We'll hope Cameron is back next week. Fantasy Football Fellas signing off. We'll see y'all next week. Deuces.